Alrighty, let's go. Welcome back into the Squishy Sport Podcast and the last NRL team we are doing a team season preview on, baby. 17 out of 17 now. This is the last one, and it is the Melbourne Storm. I cannot believe I literally did these all randomly. Thanks to ChatGPT, asking them randomly, give me 2 NRL teams to do a preview on. And honestly, it spat out Eels and Storm as the last 2 teams. Considering all the controversy that's happening between these 2 teams, I cannot believe it came down to these 2. I just finished uploading, so I just finished recording my Eels podcast literally 2 minutes ago. Now straight onto the Storm one. These will be getting uploaded straight away for you as soon as I finish recording these. But the Melbourne Storm, the grand final runners-up, losing in the grand final to the Broncos last year. Honestly, I thought they lost it definitely as well. I mean, well, you can say the Broncos won in the second half, but leading in that second half there, botched a try there. Was it with Kamikamitha there? Early in that second half, which would have gone close to putting the game away. And now you look at this season, it's probably the first sort of season where we've had a little bit of, not disruption, but a little bit of sort of off-season changes there for the Melbourne Storm coming into this year. So, what I've done with all my previews so far, I've gone through their 2025 recap, how they went, finished on the ladder, that sort of thing. Went through my 2026 ladder prediction, which all goes from the ladder predictor I did a few months ago now, so go check that out if you've missed it. Then we'll go through their 2026 gains and losses for the season. 2026 gains, who have they signed and who will make a difference to the starting team? And 2026 losses, who have they lost in this team that will actually affect them for this team coming up this year? Then we'll go through their best 1 to 17, who I think they should line up for round 1, pending any injuries. I'll obviously let you know, and how they should line up for the rest of the season if they are healthy. Then we're going to do a bit of analysis on their draw. How does their draw stack up against the rest of the competition coming into this year? But before we get started, remember to give this video a massive like and subscribe to the channel as well. The support I've been getting from the season team previews have been unbelievable, especially my Supercoach series, the trade room. If you're new to Supercoach or you're just a Supercoach nuff like I am, obsessed, make sure you go check out the first episode I did, my team reveal, and then I brought up one last week of 7 players to avoid there as well. So make sure you go check that out. But let's get straight into it, baby. The last one before we get into footy season, baby, which we have this weekend. Preseason footy this weekend. It's Christmas time, baby. It is Christmas time. 2025 Storm finished second on the ladder last year. They were unbelievable, I thought. They were so good. Obviously, Raiders just a little bit better than during the regular season there. Finishing second, they won 17 games and lost 7 there. Attack-wise, they had the 3rd best attack for the season. That's 671 points they scored there. Unbelievable attack. And defense-wise, unbelievable defense. Finishing second, 459 points conceded on defense there. Again, similar to how a lot of teams I've done there. So how that ladder finished last year, their position 3rd in attack, 2nd in defense, and they finished 2nd on the ladder. So many teams I've looked at have had very similar attack and defense to where they finished on the ladder, which is how it should be, right? And then you get all the comments like, oh, they got unlucky with injuries. Oh, they just lost a couple tight games. The stats at the end just prove it, where they finished in terms of attack, where they finished in terms of defense. That was a points difference of plus 212. I think it was the best in the comp last year. You look at a team like the Knights who got wooden spoon, they were minus 300. So over the course of the season, they finished 500 points better than Newcastle, which is crazy to think about. Obviously, we know Craig Bellamy is their coach. He's just signing 1-year contracts, man. We always find out mid-season if he's going again next year. There's obviously been the speculation where he's going to the Gold Coast potentially and pushing Josh Hannay out into that assistant role there. I think that would be such a bad look for Gold Coast if the Storm, if Gold Coast did that as a club there. If they, I get it, Bellamy is a top-tier coach. He's proven there, made many grand finals, minor premierships. But if they were to push out a new coach like Josh Hannay just to get Craig Bellamy in, I think they'll be making a massive mistake. Big time. So Craig Bellamy, he's definitely improving. He's made a ton of grand finals. What has he won? 4 premierships now, I think, with the Melbourne Storm there. had one of the best hard combination, one of the best fullbacks going around in the game, one of the best players in the game going around in Cam Smith. So he's definitely had a very, very good players around him, but he's a very, very good coach, 100%. What I do want to say with the Storm, I get they finished second. I get they had a really good season, losing in the grand final. You definitely looked at points of the season with the Storm, and you probably thought, what's going on with them? Like, they just don't quite seem to be clicking like the way that they usually are. Usually seeing them play really solid. They didn't have too many injuries really. It's like Munster, get Hughes is injured near the back end of the year. Pappenhausen was around most of the year, so was Harry Grant. There's just times where I just thought, what is happening with the Storm team? Like, it was just really odd sometimes when you looked at how the Storm played. And there were definitely times I looked at them and I thought, I don't think they can actually win the comp this year. Then you always get to the back end of the year, they start to absolute cook. Like, they start, honestly, the Bulldogs gave them a good challenge there in the finals. The Sharkies gave them a good challenge there as well there. And then they're leading a halftime in the grand final. And it's like we all saw, I guess, how the year kind of end up going for them compared to previous years. They just lost it in the second half. They just couldn't quite have that finishing touch there. But no doubt they'll be eyeing off this year for sure to have go that one bit better. Let's talk about their 2026 games, because there's definitely a couple big losses, but we'll touch on them in a little bit. 2026 games for them coming into this season there. They've made a couple nice little signings that definitely are heading into the season. Jack Hetherington, a guy that kind of gets forgotten about at Newcastle there. And the opportunity there at Storm kind of give him like that lifeline, right? When he's at Newcastle, just seemed to be like whenever he came onto the field, he would get a penalty conceded or he'd go to the bin. Just never really seemed to get his click going there at Newcastle. I think he was kind of his own worst enemy in a way at Newcastle. I don't really think he has anyone else to blame but himself of what happened there at Newcastle. He's just signed a 1-year contract, but this 1 year could prove himself absolute dividends. If he wants to work hard, get his penalties in track, that sort of thing there, and be the type of player that teams are looking for, maybe they can extend him and maybe he can go potentially to more money next year at another team there. You're not going to get any better opportunity really that Melbourne under Craig Bellamy there, especially as a forward. We see forwards improve so much under Craig Bellamy there. When they go down to Melbourne, they just improve out of sight. You look at the likes of Eli Katoa. I'm expecting the same from Utoke Manu this year for sure. You just really see them take another leap, whether it's fitness, whether it's defense, just overall as a player, just really do improve. So I think it's a bit of an underrated signing. He doesn't make the starting team for me straight away, but I do think if the opportunity is given, I think he'll actually prove himself there. So a bit of high hopes for Jack Hetherington coming into this year. Big boy. Big boy. Second one, we've got Davy Moali. 1-year contract coming over from South there. Another guy that was just kind of plotter's not the right word at South, but just never really took advantage of the opportunities that he got there at South, I guess, where there's a fitness issue. But he got his opportunity there at South. Just never really seemed to prove it. Now, again, similar to Hetherington, we're given this opportunity to go down to Melbourne and prove what he is as a player down there. What an opportunity for Davy Moali. I hope he takes this with two hands, honestly. I don't think Davy Moali is a bad player, and I think he's only got a 1-year contract, but if he gets another year down there, similar to Hetherington, I think he can improve out of sight there for Melbourne there. Doesn't quite make the starting team to start with, but honestly, if he starts to really play well off that bench and be that impact player that Melbourne need, they'll have full trust in him that if there's an injury there to Josh King or Utoke Manu, then he can step into that role and play a really vital role for Melbourne heading into this year. One more little other one is Trent Tolau coming over from Penrith there. Another little young guy, sort of young forward, who can come over and if given his opportunity, I think he can do really well. Such a good opportunity for Trent to come into that system there and really prove what he's got. Obviously, he's been in the Penrith system who has had so much success, but now gets the opportunity to go into another really good system. Can't ask for much more being in the Penrith and Storm system there. If you can't really prove yourself as a player, then you can't really blame the systems that are around you or the coaching. You've been given the full opportunity there. At the end of the day, it's probably come down to your work ethic or just as a general player, how you've gone. Let's look at the 2026 losses, because as I said, it's probably the first sort of year that, like, in a long time for the Storm, that they've had a little bit of disruption, I guess. So they had obviously the Ryan Pappenhausen. He was going to R360. Ended up, what he's spoken about is retired essentially for the moment. Whether he comes back in a couple of years, whether he comes back next year, it's not been like nowhere near being like proven yet. At the moment, on his 167 podcast, he did come out a couple of weeks ago and say he's pretty much retired for the moment. He copped a really bad head knock in that grand final, which I actually didn't see at the time, but he continued playing. How these like head knocks continue to get let go is beyond me in the NRL. Whether it's just a grand final and that like they wanted them there, it just is beyond me how this keeps happening, honestly, and it just frustrates me because now we've seen what's happened to Eli Katoa, what happened to him, unfortunately, in the Pac Champs. Now will not be playing this year, has been confirmed there. Hopefully we see him back next year. Honestly, if it's still not up to scratch for Ellie, what is the point for Ellie? I'd rather, like any NRL fan, like any player, like any coach, like any person really, would rather see a player have healthy life after rugby league than absolutely grind themselves into the ground and absolutely just mush themselves after retirement and not have a good lease of life after retirement there. I'd rather Ellie. He's made some really good money in the NRL. He's going to have some really good opportunities elsewhere in the NRL. I don't have a doubt about that there. And I just want to see Ellie be healthy, honestly. We know how talented Ellie is. Probably the best back rower, like the best second rower going around in the comp there. So in terms of him impacting the team, it's a big loss, right? But we can't look at it that way. It's a massive loss, as I said, for the Storm on that right edge there, Eli Katoa there. But I said I want to see Eli Katoa have a good lease of life. I think they made the right decision with him having the year off. Again, similar to Pappenhausen, how did these HIAs just seem to go unnoticed? Whether it's an issue with the doctor, whether they're just letting it slide. They've got to get more serious because in the end, it's going to end up being in the shit for the NRL. One of these players is going to take it to court and it's going to go upside down. It's going to go pear-shaped for the NRL because they will not win that battle. No way, Jose. These doctors need to get more up to scratch. They need to bite their tongue and say it's for the better of the player, not for the better of the team, and pull them off if need be. I get it, it's frustrating seeing HIAs, super coach, that sort of thing. In the grand scheme of things, super coach and other shit does not matter when you look at players' health at the end of the day. That is the main priority. At the end of the day, we're playing a kid's sport. We're literally playing a sport that 6-year-olds play, and they're getting paid really good money to go and play it and like live their dream. And they should not be getting injured or having bad health at the end of the day for it there. Little rant there by me. Don't usually do that, but just my 2 cents on that sort of situation there. I think Pappenhausen and Katoa have easily made the best decisions for themselves, and I don't think the Storm or NRL or anyone should be fussed or pissed about it. The next one there is a guy like Bronson Garlick there. Another little handy sort of replacement there that's off to South Sydney. I'm not sure if he would get an opportunity really there at South. He didn't really get too much at Storm there. Grant Anderson off to the Broncos this year, and I remember when Grant Anderson came into the NRL and on the wing there, kind of in that origin sort of replacement there, and I was like, who the hell is this guy? This guy is getting absolutely rinsed on the wing. Why does he keep getting this opportunity? What is happening? How is he getting it? Like, how is he getting starts? Like, how is he even a backup? He was getting rinsed. Here. Coming off his wing, he was not good. Not good. I'm sure a lot of the NRL fans probably know that. He was not good to start, like, when he came into his career in the NRL. However, just in the last couple of years, particularly last year, he's had a really good opportunity there, like on the wing and in the centers is needed as well. He is improved out of sight, and I've got to put my hand up, and got to give him, tip my hat to Grant Anderson. He has improved out of sight. I'm surprised he actually went to the Broncos, but sounds like he just wants to get a starting opportunity all year, which, I mean, I guess unlucky for him now because he signed that contract at the Broncos before Nick Meaney signed his Perth contract. So probably would get his opportunity next year after Nick Meaney left, but got to tip my hat to Grant Anderson. Really happy for the bloke. He's got his little bit better contract now. Potentially gets his opportunity at the Broncos. If there's an injury to Tony Sags or Shibasaki or even like your Mariners or your Carapanis, I have no doubt he steps into that role and makes a really big impact because he has improved out of sight. Probably one of my most improved players from last year. Definitely top 3 going off the dome there. The other player on the list there is Jonah Pezzett. Jonah Pezzett started in the 7 role, I think, for the first final against the Doggies. I thought he was unbelievable. I thought he really steps in that role well. Built a really good combination with Munster there as well. And a really little handy sort of player to have. Now he gets his starting opportunity for the Eels in that 5/8 role next to the New South Wales half there as well. It's not like you've got like, sort of an average NRL half next to him. He's going to have the New South Wales half next to him. He had the Queensland captain next to him for that final there, and we saw what he can do. Now he's got the New South Wales essentially halfback next to him there. He's got no excuse. 1-year deal at the Eels there before he goes and bees the next guy to replace Adam Reynolds essentially in that 7 role for the Broncos. A lot of pressure on Jonah Pezzett this year. This is such a massive year for Jonah Pezzett. Obviously, he's going to the Broncos next year no matter what. But this can really solidify himself as a really prosperous, like good NRL player in the future if he goes well this year. And if he continues to do well with Broncos next year, we could be talking about one of like the best sort of signings, I guess, for the Broncos in a long, long time. They've picked this guy to replace Reynolds to be the Brisbane Broncos number 7, which is such a massive opportunity, such a good opportunity. They decided to go Pezzett or even Tom Duffy potentially over Kobe Black. Kobe Black meant to be one of the brightest and newest, hottest 7s coming into the comp. They've decided to go Jonah Pezzett over him for next year to replace Renault. Massive, massive opportunity. It's a big call for the Broncos, but they obviously see something in Pezzett to give him that opportunity there. So there's definitely a loss to the Storm. I'm not sure. I doubt he comes back later on in his career there, but 1-year loan deal at the Eels before he heads off to the Broncos there. But let's have a look at their best 1-2-17 there, because I've actually got to get this going a little bit because I do have to head off in a bit. Best 1-17. Let's kick off. So the fullback role to replace Pappenhausen this year is Su'a Fa'alongo. We saw Su'a. We know how talented Su'a is. I don't need to go on about it. When he got his opportunity there with fullback like HIA Pappenhausen, where it's on the wing, he seems to absolutely light it up. Absolutely light it up. Now he gets his opportunity pretty much all season now at the fullback there for the Melbourne Storm. Surrounded by Munster, surrounded by Hughes, surrounded by Harry Grant, 3 of the best players we have in our comp to get his opportunity there. Cannot have probably a better opportunity in the NRL. Maybe that in the Broncos is like the top 2 spots for fullback in the NRL. He now gets it. He finally gets his shot at starting fullback role for a whole season to prove how good he is, how talented he is. We know how talented he is. It's just whether he can put all combinations together. I think he will start a little bit slower, but I can definitely see him as a year more experienced games at fullback. He will prove himself more and more. I think he is definitely one of the most talented players we have going around in NRL. Big high hopes for Su'a Fa'alongo. On your wings here, 2 cracking wingers. Got Xavier Coates, a Australian winger, Queensland winger, guy that's absolutely putting himself on that the left edge there, for the Storm there. Unbelievable what this guy can do in the air, what he can do finishing wise. As a Warriors fan, I'll never forget that try that he scored pretty much on the buzzer at the start of 2024. I think it was round 2 or 3. It was an absolute heartbreaker, but one of the finishes of the year. Will Warbrick on the other wing there. So we saw him suffer a lot of HIA, big HIA through last year, which is where Grant Anderson got his opportunity there. Now he's got a full preseason. Hopefully he's feeling healthy now. Understandably, probably a starting Kiwi winger. Kiwi winger, I think he's talented enough there. We know how much potential Warbrick has. I think he's unbelievable there as well. In your center roles, we got Nick Meaney there on the right edge, a guy he's going to be goal kicking, he can play fullback, he can play wing if he needs to as well. I really like Nick Meaney going to Perth, obviously in 2027 there. And then you got Jackie Howarth there on the left center there. Got injured during the grand final last year, which is a shame there with a shoulder injury. But This is a guy that the Storm have invested a lot of time and a lot of money in. Not often do players get 5-year contracts with the Storm there, but even Jack Howarth got a 5-year contract, and he wasn't even starting in this team yet. He was still just hanging around the top 30, maybe even a development player, and he was getting his contract. So it just shows how much potential they see in Jack Howarth, whether he works really, really hard and wants to prove himself. I think it'll all start to come to fruition, and we saw that last year as well. He got into the Maroon squad, I believe, as well. And honestly, now that I've seen Shibasaki make the Maroon squad, there's no shadow of a doubt in my mind he can actually potentially make this Queensland team this year if he proves himself as well. In your halves role, this will essentially not change for a very, very long time. Cameron Munster there in your 6. Queensland captain, don't need to say any more there. And then Jerome Hughes, essentially your Kiwi number 7 there. Got injured near the back end of last year with that shoulder. Was it broken arm, like a shoulder injury there? Excuse me. Came back in for that prelim against the Sharkies there, and then the grand final there. I mean, Dally M winner in 2024. He was unbelievable 2024. He had a pretty good year last year, apart from getting injured. One of the best players going around in the comp. Storm are so fortunate to have essentially 2 of the top 10 players in the NRL, to have them in their halves directly there, which is unbelievable. Probably arguably they've got 3 of the top 10 to 15 players in the NRL in their starting team, in their spine there, which they've had for a long time, right? Like, you look at the Cooper Cronks, your Billy Slayers, your Cameron Smith, they've had that for a while, but now to have Munster, Hughes, Harry Grant, Suafalongo there as well now is an unbelievable spine that they're rocking with. In your prop role, going for Josh King in the front row there, and Stefano Utoikamanu there in your front row there as well. Same as last year, Stefano in his second year now with the Storm. I'm expecting a big year from Stefano. We always see Storm players in their second year down there, especially in the forward role. We saw it with Eli Katoa. We're seeing it with other players like Josh King, like Trent Liero, really, really stepped up in their second year starting. First year is generally about getting their defense right. He was very efficient there in defense, but now you're going to probably look at him looking, trying to, open up his offload game. We know we might see a lot more offloads. We might see a bit more higher work rate on there in attack. Trying to expand that attack, definitely for sure, with Stefano. We know what the modern front row is like. You look at a guy like Payne Haas, you look at a guy like Terrell May, and what these guys are doing. Uto Okamanu definitely has the potential to be a starting front rower in the New South Wales side. I have no doubt about it. It's just whether he can actually prove it and be at that level consistently as well. In your second rowers there, on your left edge, gone for Sean Ball there, guy that came over from the Tigers. I think it was the start of last year, maybe the year before. A guy that took a while to build into his role, and starting to build into his role even more now. If he came in from the Tigers last year, this is obviously his second year at the Storm this year. So similar to what we spoke about with Uto Okamanu, second year syndrome with Melbourne. I'm expecting a big year for Sean Ball there as well. Then your right edge, obviously we've got the Eli Katoa replacement. And this is kind of open to a couple players there. What was being speculating in the preseason there is going to be Atavalu Lasati. I believe he replaced Eli Katoa there in the last round of the regular season there last year. And you've got guys like Ethan Hetherington can go into that role. Joe Chan can go into that role if needed there as well. So there's definitely a couple of replacements there for the Storm that for Lasati that can go into that role. I want to see Lasati definitely take advantage. You're not going to get a better spot there next to Jerome Hughes anywhere really in the comp there. Just trying to think off the top of the dome if there's better spots on that right edge. Maybe like a Britton Nickera. Like, we saw how damaging Eli Katoa that was on that right edge. And now this young kid, Lasati, gets his opportunity there. If he can take this for 2 hands, he is in for a big, big year. In your 13 role there, we've got Trent Liero, guy that made the State of Origin team last year. Very proven player now. Actually ended up starting there in the lock role over Patty Carrigan there in Origin last year, and proved dividends as well for the Maroons there. something I did not see coming, but ended up proving dividends, putting Carrigan on the bench, starting Trent Leary there. Guy that can really have some solid defense. He's not like the biggest sort of guy that you look for on attack compared to other locks in the comp there, but really bloody solid defensively there. He is actually suspended for the first 2 weeks, though. I believe he got suspended in the grand final there, so he'll be back in round 3. So I would say they will put a guy like maybe Tyron Wishart there in the lock role to start the year. Speaking of Tyron Wishart, once Trent Leary is back, he will be in that 14 role there. Tyron Wishart, I believe he should be a guy that Perth should be going after. If he is signed with Perth, I believe. If he isn't signed with Perth, he should be definitely going over there 100%, no doubt about it. He needs his starting role there. He's easily good enough there. Obviously, the son of Rod Wishart there. I believe Tyron Wishart's sister is actually now married to Ruben Garrick as well. A little bit of NRL sort of within the NRL there. Chemistry's relationships happening there. But Tyron Wishart, really big year coming out for him as well. Obviously, if he's heading off to Perth, I'm pretty confident he was there. Jack Hetherington, I've gone for him on the bench there. A guy we just spoke about. Big year for Hetherington coming up, right? Has to prove his role there. Didn't quite get his opportunity at Newcastle, but I think that's because he shot himself more in the foot, definitely. If he doesn't shoot himself in the foot at Melbourne there, he can 100% be the player that has so much potential. He is a big, big guy, and he's got a good, hard motor on him. If there was an injury to something like the Sadi or like Uto Okamanu during the Origin period, he can definitely step into that role. I think there is no better coach you'd want than Craig Bellamy to get you in check, get you ready to go, get your, what's the word I'm looking for? So get the penalty rate down, more time on the field, less time sitting on that little lonely chair on the bench. In your 16 role, a guy that's really going to come in, a really young player, got a lot of potential, is Josiah Pahulu. Coming over from the Gold Coast Science, sort of, I think it was mid last year. A really young guy that's coming through the NRL at the moment. If you haven't heard of Pahulu, cannot believe the Gold Coast let this guy go. He is going to be unbelievable for the Storm, potentially this year, but definitely years to come, 100%. And then on the 17 role, filling out, you got the super chin, Alec McDonald there. Little handy replacement there for the prop role there. He's never going to be a guy that absolutely lights the world up, but again, little handy replacement there for the Storm. We spoke about Trent Leary getting suspended for 2 weeks as well, so he will not be back until round 3. All right. Let's have a look at the rest of the squad, because the rest of the squad, obviously, you've lost a couple key players that we spoke about, right? But it's not too bad. You got a guy like Moses Leo, played sevens for New Zealand, had a couple opportunities last year. Wasn't too bad, but we'll see. Probably just needs more NRL game time. Lazarus Vailepu, another sort of young sort of edge role that's coming through Storm there as well. Guy similar to like your Joe Chance that can like potentially get his opportunity there if needed. You got Manaya Wateri, who came over from the Canberra Raiders there, or was it the Eagles? Sorry. Probably a guy that won't get any game time this year, but again, another little young prospect. You've got Trent Tolau there, who has come over from Penrith. So again, a little handy replacement there. Hasn't got too much time there in the NRL so far, but get his opportunity. I'm sure he'll prove it. Tui Kamikamica. Go absolutely blew that try in the grand final. Does that cost him an opportunity in round 1? I'm not so sure. Probably, honestly, nearly cost him the grand final. Look, we've seen what he's done at NRL level. If he gets his spot there in the bench there, he'll do a job for them. And then your last guy on the list there is Davy Mawali there, coming over from South. And a guy that I really want to see prove his opportunity there in the NRL level consistently as well. Not going to be a guy like your Josh King or Oto Kamanu, but get his fitness up, stay healthy, get his work rate going. I believe he can be definitely a forward that definitely can get an opportunity there on the bench. Maybe he replaces a guy like Pahulu, that sort of thing. Maybe they go with him round 1. I'm not quite sure. It's kind of a mixed bag there on the bench, I guess, for me there. Depth-wise, it's not too bad, right? They've got a couple key players out there that can definitely improve in. We've seen time and time when Melbourne Storm players, they come in, play their debut, and you're just like, where's this guy been? They've got such a good system. Craig Bellamy has this unbelievable ability of coaching these young players up to get to NRL level super quickly and then obviously go get that opportunity elsewhere, or they proved in the NRL with them as well. All right, let's have a look at their draw, because their draw is pretty tough. I want to say it's definitely on the tougher side. I think it was one of the top 4 teams like on the toughest schedule that I did when I did my draw analysis video a few months ago there. So they do have, obviously they have their 12 home games. 11 of those are in Melbourne. They do take 1 game to Perth. I think that's against the Sharks, I want to say, this year there. They do have 13 return flights. So obviously they have to travel away for every single game. There's no like bus rides or anything. So it definitely is tricky. In terms of top 8 teams they have to play 5 top 8 teams. And they have to play essentially the rest of the top 4. So they have to play the Raiders, Dogs, and Broncos twice, along with the Panthers and the Roosters twice as well. That's pretty tricky. You look at the Sharks and the Warriors, the only 2 top 8 teams that they don't have to play twice. That's probably the 5 toughest teams in the top 8 to play twice, which is pretty hard for them. The other top 8 teams other teams that have to play twice is Manly, Eels, and Souths. I'd say Eels and South are definitely the trickier of those 2. I don't think Manly will be that great this year, but we also know Manly and Melbourne have such a big rivalry that these 2 teams, whenever they turn up, freaking anything can happen. Literally anything can happen for them. So that means they play the top 4 6 times, max amount of games, because they finished top 4 last year. They play the top 8 12 times. There's a shitload of games against the top 8, considering they finished in the top 8 themselves. They finished in the bottom 9 12 times. That just recognized my Siri. I don't even know how that recognized my Siri. Bottom 9 12 times, and they played the bottom 4 5 times. So the team that finished in the bottom 4 was Souths out of there. But I'm finished picking the Souths will be a lot more improved this season. So it's definitely a tricky sort of matchup there for the Storm. They are one of the teams that do have a 5-day turnaround this year. There's not many teams that do. And we spoke about the Sharks and the Warriors are the 2 teams that they don't have to play twice that finish in the top 8. They do actually have to play the Sharkies in Sydney there, which is notoriously a pretty hard game, pretty hard team to go, pretty hard venue to go play at. They do get to play the Warriors in Melbourne there, which they generally seem to smash us. So yeah, that pretty much sucks. In terms of their buys, they have a buy in round 15, round 18, and round 24 there. So they do start the season with 14 straight games, which is pretty darn tricky there. Then they get a bye for the 2nd and 3rd Origin there, and then they get a bye 3 weeks before the season finishes. So probably not the worst final round bye to have in that round 24. That means they come back and then have 3 games before they get up to finals. So they essentially will have 6-7 weeks they'll be looking at as finals games, coming in fresh after that bye. Probably a really ideal bye round to have, as I said, in round 24. Come back 3 games, and then they kick into the finals there. They can really ramp up their work ethic, really ramp up their speed. Hopefully get a little bit healthier there during that bye period there as well. But that'll do it for your Storm preview. The team previews are done, baby. That's 17 out of 17 done. I hope you've really enjoyed them all. It's taken a lot of hard work. Every single Monday night recording to every single week now, but we've finally made it now to preseason footy, baby. The footy is here. We have our first 2 preseason games this weekend. I cannot bloody wait. Recording is Tuesday morning, so you'll be listening to this on Tuesday as well. We have our first Teamless Tuesday of the year today. I am so freaking excited, but make sure you go check out all the other team previews I've done to get you a good gauge on where the season is heading from my point of view. Make sure you go check out the ladder preview predictor I did as well a few months ago. Remember to give it a massive like and subscribe to the channel as well. I've got Supercoach content, NRL content, all coming your way this season for your hot and heavy. Cannot bloody wait. But that'll do it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and cheers.